The White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce and On Location TV 19 are proud to present Your Business Matters, dedicated to your business needs. The White Bear Area Chamber is a nonprofit business organization serving as an advocate for the White Bear area and its business community. Now here is the Executive Director of the White Bear Area Chamber and the host of Your Business Matters, Tom Snell.
Welcome to Your Business Matters, brought to you by the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce. Each month we interview community leaders and business owners so that you can be informed about the developments in your community. Today I'm pleased to welcome Julie Swanson, the White Bear Lake Police Chief. In January of 2014, Ms. Swanson was sworn in as the second consecutive female police chief for the city of White Bear Lake.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And I want to start this interview by asking you some questions about yourself.
Sure.
And then what's happening with the dynamics of the police force in general.
Sure. Sounds
so
good.
Give me a little bit of background about yourself and why did you decide to go into the law enforcement industry or business?
Sure. I guess I don't really know why I ever decided to do it. It was just a dream that I had when I was a kid. Most people that have become police officers have some sort of family history in law enforcement.
And you didn't?
Nope, nothing. It just, after seeing shows on TV and doing some work in my own community growing up, I knew I wanted to serve in the community. So I actually got a degree in social work from the University of Minnesota, but when I got done with that degree, I knew I really didn't want to be a social worker. Ironically, in the end, you kind of end up as a social worker, as a police officer,
Yeah.
But I worked full-time in the City of St. Paul District 5 Planning Council as a crime prevention coordinator. So I was a neighborhood organizer and organized block groups and crime prevention groups for that community.
Okay, so so you started out in St. Paul and in crime prevention. That kind of got you involved with the police issues?
Yeah, just the crime issues. It was an area that I had grown up in. It was the Lower East Side, and it just kind of piqued my interest in law enforcement. I didn't stay there. I actually got a job at the Fridley Police Department after a few years doing the same thing, and at that point is when I got more exposure to law enforcement and the job of a police officer.
And so what drove you to come to White Bear then?
I'm actually from White Bear. I grew up. After moving from the east side, my family moved to White Bear Lake, and then when I got married, my husband and I have lived here for 27 years with our kids. So, after Fridley, I actually went and became a police officer. I got the schooling. It was a second degree that I had to go get. And I started working for the Ramsey County Sheriff's Department as a deputy.
Okay.
But as a deputy, you have to serve in the jail for several years, and I wasn't that young, and I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time in the jail. So
But you've done that.
Right.
You served, so you've been like right up front with prisoners.
Correct. Right. And I did that for about 3 years, and then the job at White Bear came open.
Now let me ask you, do you think that's good training?
It's
for
great
somebody?
training. Yes, it's great training. When I started it, I was just a young mom, very naive, didn't know what I was getting into. So it is a good experience to work in the jail and get more interaction with the people that end up serving time.
And I noticed I'm diversing a little bit from the interview, but why do you think that that is a good idea?
It teaches you the people skills. Nobody that comes in there is happy. I mean, by the time they've got there, they know that their number's up and that they're going to be spending some time. So it's a good opportunity to learn to talk to people and to learn the court system and how after you make the arrest as a police officer, you're done. But once you work in the jail system, you understand how the whole court process works.
Is that kind of a process that everybody follows when they go into police work?
No, most people don't work in the jail. I mean, a lot of people come in with some sort of experience, but it's not typical. I think most people that have done it are probably still working for the Sheriff's Department. I just chose to leave.
Okay. Now, so you're in White Bear. I find really interesting about this community and about the police force in White Bear is that you're the second female police chief that's come into our area.
Right.
And is that kind of unusual?
It is. I think that the state of Minnesota might be up to about 8 or 10 women police chiefs. There's 450 police departments in Minnesota. Yes.
And so White Bear, I mean, so it's kind of unique and innovative that White Bear has had 2 consecutive female police chiefs.
Yep, it is different. We have a high number of police officers that, I mean, in my whole career there, we've had a high number of female police officers, but all in all, it is unusual to have it be back-to-back women.
Do you see that that's a trend that's going to be going forward? Do you think we're going to see a higher and higher percentage of female police chiefs?
I would think so. I mean, I think that it is changing, but I don't know that we're going to see it happen overnight. I think it's becoming a little bit more usual.
Okay. And what are some of the things like if you were to put together like a job venue of what police chiefs do? What are some of the real critical skills that you need in order to be an effective police chief? I
honestly think that the police chiefs are probably less important than the police officers, because the police officers are doing the work. You know, they're the ones that are out handling the calls and that the public sees. But it is important. I think a big piece of what I do is the budget and managing the budget for the department. It is one of the larger aspects of the city's budget as a whole, because we have more staff and with equipment and just different technology that we work with, we have a big percentage of the city of White Bear Lake's budget. Sure. And then hiring, we do a lot of hiring. Our hiring process isn't as simple as the hiring process for maybe hiring a parks person or hiring somebody else in the city. To be a police officer, you have to meet the state guidelines, you have to have the education, you go through a background phase. We just are starting right now to hire police officers because we have 3 openings, and I anticipate we won't see those people working until September. So it's a very long process.
So it takes a while for somebody to, when you want to hire a police officer.
Right, right.
Okay. I wanted to diverse a little bit here too about our area and and the challenges that you see now and going into the future as far as crime in White Bear and the surrounding communities.
Sure.
And what do you see, and what would you? I know this is difficult, but if you were to envision 10 years from now, what do you think will change?
I think we'll see more computer crimes and scams. It's already trending more. Our biggest issue as far as law enforcement or crime goes are thefts from autos, property crimes, vehicle break-ins, stealing of cars. And then, but we're seeing a bigger trend with scams, scamming the elderly and scamming people just through fictitious businesses or stealing their credit card numbers, things like that, fraudulent purchases on their accounts. Technology has opened up a whole new door for those that can figure it out and figure out the way to take from the innocent people.
And that's really interesting because you said scamming the elderly, and if you were to go around this area, it seems like the biggest growth area are senior long-term care living facilities. So our communities are getting older, and there's no getting around that. So, and you mentioned scamming the elderly. What are some examples that you might be able to share with people that watch this show that if you're an older citizen in White Bear that you might want to look out for?
We have a lot of solicitors that come door to door, like maybe tree services or phone solicitors that are calling them, telling them that they're their grandchild and that they've been in a accident or they have been arrested in another country, and asking them to send money. And I know to the average person it seems like I wouldn't do that because I would know if it's my grandchild or not.
It's just strange. So people actually, I like to say this, but people actually fall for that.
They do because they just, they're trusting that it is their grandchildren calling, and they don't want to question it because they give a very believable story. I don't know where the scam artists are finding their numbers from or how they know, but they're very good at calling and saying, oh, it's your grandson. And then the grandparent will say, oh, you know, hi, Johnny, and they have their lead in. So they can develop that conversation with them pretty quickly.
And you mentioned things like tree service, people that are going door to door knocking on folks' doors and saying they're selling something or they're providing a service for their home. Maybe, are there things that somebody should watch out for?
They should have a license. I mean, they should have, if they're going door to door, they should have a solicitor permit. And don't ever give somebody the money the first day. You should call another company and get a second opinion, or make sure that it's a reputable company within the area. I always like to say, you know, look for somebody that's local or somebody that you know has a company, and you can always call the city and verify if we've had dealings with them or not dealings with them, and never give them money up front. I mean, if they come to your door today and they want to blacktop your driveway tomorrow, but they need half the money today, then it's too good to be true. Just turn them down and wait for them to come back and provide the service before you provide them payment.
Do you see any growth in some of the more serious crimes? And I'll bring up methamphetamines, for example. You read a lot about in certain parts of the state where there are these meth labs, and they're very hard to figure out exactly where they are. And I'm just wondering if you've seen anything like that, or if that is a potential concern out there on the horizon.
It's always a concern. Drugs are a concern regardless, because they are so serious, and drugs push a lot of our other crime. I mean, you know, people who need to purchase drugs are out there breaking into the cars to get the items to sell on the street so that they have the money for the drugs. So they all kind of go hand in hand. And, you know, we have not had a meth lab in White Bear Lake. Our bigger producing of drugs that we have seen has been marijuana. We've had a couple of grow operations, some big ones in the past years that we have been able to uncover and put people behind bars for that. I think our bigger concern for drugs at the moment is heroin, even more so than
not in White Bear?
In all of Minnesota. And part of the reason is it's coming in from other parts of the country. It's very pure, and people are not they're not sure what they're taking, and they overdose. So and you'll see a lot of it in the news, you'll see a lot of it in the media, that the heroin overdoses are on the rise, and it's not teenagers. I mean, it's anywhere from 18 years old to 50 years old. It's just a very potent drug that has some serious effects right away, and unless you can get to them and reverse the effects of the drug, then they're going to end up overdosing.
So you've actually had cases of heroin that have taken place in our communities.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a couple times a year we've had some heroin overdoses in the greater White Bear area between Hugo, Vadnais Heights, White Bear Lake. We do see overdoses, and we've been successful in figuring out where they get that heroin from and charging the drug dealers too. So it's not that it stops with the overdose. We continue to investigate it.
Now, how about youth issues? Or is there any like I said, our community is getting older. We still have a number of kids in school and everything. Anything as far as youth crime that goes on?
I don't know that we've had a huge change in it, other than just social media has had an impact in kids' lives. I mean, there's bullying, there's kids that are opening themselves up to strangers because they are trusting whoever's on the other end of their social media page.
And you see that as an issue then?
We do.
I mean, not just necessarily just for White Bear, but you see that as a potential crime issue about people opening up to strangers on social media. Yeah. And the ramifications that something like that can cause.
Yeah, I mean, you see it every day in the news in Minnesota, where somebody has met someone online, and then that person, you don't know if that person's a 50-year-old man or a 16-year-old guy that you think that you're talking to. So you have to be very careful. We do a lot of education in the schools. We do a lot of internet crime. We educate the parents.
Well,
we educate the kids. Yep.
How, in what ways do you do the internet crime education?
We have an officer that goes in the fall to our middle schools and talks to all the kids and does demonstrations about the different, offenses that can take place online. And then we, in November, have a parent safety night where we have 4 different seminars, and one of those is internet safety, drug safety, Usually the schools will do something about dating, and then we do traffic safety.
That seems to be something that would be very, very important for citizens in White Bear to take advantage of. Is this something that's fairly new?
It is. Last year was the second year, and it's I don't have the date in my mind, but I think it's around November 15th, and it's advertised in the Community Services Bulletin. So the first year we didn't have a lot of participation. Last year we had about 100 parents. It's open to any parents.
That seems to be a lot. 100 parents is quite a few.
But every class has about 700 students, so we'd like to be able to...
Well, it's a start.
It is a start, exactly, exactly.
So, you also mentioned, I thought this was really interesting, you also mentioned that there's some openings in the White Bear Police Department. The first question I have is are police officers really a area of high demand? Are they in high demand, or do you have more people that are willing to fill those positions and you actually have positions open? And I'd like to ask that for both White Bear and then more of a regional look. For that.
We have 3 openings due to retirements and some promotions. When I got promoted, that vacated a spot, and it's a trickle down effect because you promote people from within. So we have the 3 openings, and you average a couple hundred applicants for these openings.
You do, like a couple hundred applicants for each opening?
Well, for the openings, because we have 3 at a time, and I know that that's the trend in Minnesota. It's very competitive. It's not unusual for kids that come out of college with a law enforcement degree to wait a year or 2 to get a job. It is competitive. It's a job that people stay in for a long time, and then again, the hiring process is long. So they have to make themselves very marketable by having 4-year degrees, and if they can be bilingual or have some sort of other experience.
Yeah. So you're looking for, for people that are come out of a 4-year degree background, and they have degrees in police work that...
Yeah, they only have to have a 2-year degree, but we give more points for a 4-year degree. The trend, the state requirement's 2 years, and then a skills program, which is another 6 months. But to make themselves competitive, most people come out of it with a 4-year degree. And it doesn't have to be police work. We have people on our force that have been teachers in the past, or like I said, my degree was in social work. It makes people a little bit more with a diverse background and a greater understanding.
Yeah, and then you also look for diverse candidates as far as their ethnic backgrounds?
Correct. Yeah, and we have some diversity on our force, but there's a big draw to the bigger cities for that because there just is more opportunities, and there's more opportunities to do other jobs.
But White Bear, is becoming a more diverse community, so I just...
we welcome it, absolutely, we welcome it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you a little bit too about volunteerism, and you can look at our population getting older in 2 ways. You can say it's a concern because people leaving the workforce and additional costs of society, and one can also look at it as an opportunity to reach out to people to do volunteer service and support for their community.
Right.
And the question that I have is, are there opportunities for people as they get older and maybe are looking for volunteer opportunities to reach out to the police force as a potential for doing volunteer work?
Right. We have a lot of different volunteer groups in the police department. We have our police reserves, who they range in age from, you have to be 18, but they range in age from 18 to probably 65. And those are the officers that you see in the light blue shirts, and they volunteer and help at things like the parade and Market Fest, Manitou Days. They help with different traffic safety initiatives we have. They'll help on crash scenes with traffic control. They'll take prisoners to jail for us, which keeps the officer from having to take that person downtown St. Paul.
Right.
So it's keeping the officer on the street and utilizing the volunteers. And there is a pretty extensive training background with that. Then we have our CERT team, which is new, but that's the Community Emergency Response Team. And they are people that go through an 8-week academy, and their goal is more to respond to disaster preparedness. It's a nationwide program where every police department that has it, they utilize them in things like tornadoes or natural disasters or other incidents where we need just more manpower, and they're very, very trained.
And people can find out about that, I would imagine, just by contacting the police department?
Right. And then our third group is our senior citizen group. So we do have our triad group, which is our senior citizen group. And all three of those programs are listed on our website. But you can also call the police department as well, because we have contacts for each of those different groups.
That's interesting to know that you do have those types of volunteer
Right.
opportunities available. Now, if somebody would like to get a hold of the police department or get a hold of you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, we have our non-emergency number, the 651-429-8511. And we also have our website where we have our emails listed on the website and a contact for each person as well.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a very enlightening interview.
Good.
And appreciate you coming on Your Business Matters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I have a quick announcement about a very important upcoming event. On Wednesday, August 19th, the White Bear Area Chamber has a special event that focuses on the new and innovative small business financing opportunities. Visit the White Bear Area Chamber website for more details. For more events that the White Bear Area Chamber is doing, go to hyperlink www.whitebearchamber.com. I'm Tom Snell, and thank you for joining me on Your Business Matters.
You've been watching Your Business Matters. For more information on this program or the White Bear Area Chamber, visit www.whitebearchamber.com or call 651-429-8593.